Hey guys, welcome to my round 2 recap from the Issyk-Kul Open tournament in Kyrgyzstan, where I'm currently located, playing local masters, players from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, many countries have joined this event. Today, in the morning, I had a very interesting conversation with none other than Alisher Suleymanov. He's a grandmaster, one of the strongest Kazakhstani players, and you might have heard about him because he beat Magnus Carlsen in like 25 moves in Qatar Open last year. It was a sensation, the game was brilliant. Alisher became an overnight celebrity in Kazakhstan, and not only in Kazakhstan. So he happened to be on Issyk-Kul, relaxing, having some vacation here, and we met and talked a little bit about chess, about other things. We know each other for some time, and before I went to play the game, he asked whom are you playing, and I told him I'm playing 6-time Kyrgyzstani champion, national champion, a national master, a strong guy, and I'm going to play the French defense, and I'm going to play this and that against him. And he was like, interesting, I played a similar variation just a month ago in another tournament. And he showed me his game. He used a novelty in that one and won with black in a convincing manner. And I was like, wow. So I was prepped by Grandmaster Alisher Suleymanov. Let's see if it helped me withstand the pressure of the master, who was really intent on destroying me, like you see on the thumbnail for this video, in the same manner. So let's dive into the game. So my opponent, Sizbekov Arzybek, the master from Kyrgyzstan, actually, by the way, he's rated just around 2000. So although he's a master, he's not highly rated because of the rating deflation in the Middle Asia. This is common in Kazakhstan as well as in Kyrgyzstan, in Uzbekistan. There are very many young top players, very strong players there, but they play each other and their rating does not grow, well, basically. So you might remember that, for example, in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, there used to be a World Rapid and Blitz Championship, and there were some guys there with like 2000 ELO rating who beat or made draws with top players like Nepo drew one 2000 rated guy, for example, and it wasn't like luck. This guy outplayed Nepo. he could have won. So yeah, these guys are stronger than their rating might indicate. So he was playing with the white pieces, and I chose the exact variation that we discussed with Alisher Suleymanov. This is the variation that I chose, and I knew that he plays bishop g5 here. I've seen a couple of his games, and I decided to take. This is an interesting variation that you might choose if you are playing for a win with black pieces. An aggressive and interesting variation, and here I take with a pawn. And here, actually, this was a peculiar move order. Usually, in this position, white takes this pawn first, makes black go bishop e7, and then takes here, and this is the position that arises. But my opponent did something else. He took the knight first, and I took, and then he took the pawn. And here, I thought for some time, I knew that this is not the main move order, and I thought, why don't I just kick him away, and if he goes to c3, for example, or g3, doesn't matter, then I do something else. Maybe I don't have to put my bishop on e7. That's what I thought, but then I decided, but then I will be out of my prep, and I decided against this. I decided, you know what, maybe this move order could give me a better position, but this is like intricacies, subtleties of chess at a high level. So I went bishop e7 to have the position that I was prepared for, which is actually not the best move. So it was better to go f5, but whatever. So he goes c3. Also, it's not the main move, and already I'm out of prep because everybody here goes knight f3, or some players go knight c3, anticipating the fact that black will go f5, kicking this knight away, and the knight will have to go to c3. So these are the two moves that people make: knight f3 or knight c3. But my opponent here surprised me by going c3, which is also a logical move, but it doesn't give any advantage to white. The computer already says that black is fine, is equal in many variations. So go f5. I was on my own here. He goes knight g3, and I go c5, trying to undermine this pawn chain of his. You know, if your opponent has a strong pawn chain, if it's in the center especially, you should try to undermine it. I calculated in my head this variation: takes, 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 and bishop takes c5. And I thought, I'm not worse here. I have the 2 bishops advantage, and the computer agrees. Actually, black is a little bit even better in this position. But he didn't take. He protected the pawn with the knight. I attacked it once again, and he went bishop b5, pinning me. And here I just castled. This is not maybe the most precise move order. The computer says that... the computer actually says that h5 is the best move here. Wow, I didn't even consider this move because it's crazy. I need to castle. I won't castle queenside because here the c file will be open and I will be attacked. And if I go h5, how will I castle kingside? It will be like madness. But the computer insists that this is a good plan, and if white castles, I'll go h4, knight e2, queen d6, and turns out black is perfectly fine. Well, I didn't think about this plan. Well, but castling is also not a mistake by any means. He castles as well, and here I take, and he decides to trade another bishop of his for my knight. I thought it's not the best decision, but you'll see how it played out. So he takes, I take, and he takes with a knight. And yes, I have worse pawns, so you might see that I have those doubled pawns here. I have those 2 isolated pawns on the c file and a file. They are not protected by any other pawn, but I have the 2 bishops, and I thought I should be better actually here. But unfortunately for me, I made a mistake here, which basically was the beginning of it going downhill. So I went queen b6, which is a perfectly logical move made very often in the French. I'm pressuring the b2 square. I'm also preparing bishop b7, and also in this position my c6 pawn hangs, so I have to protect it. But turns out that this is already a mistake, and already my position is very unpleasant. On high depth, the computer gives +1 to white already, which is crazy. Because of this move rook e1, he doesn't have to protect his pawn. He has the threats of his own. He wants to take on f5, and if I take, he will take on e7. My bishop is not defended. And if I go, for example, bishop f6, which would be a logical reaction, he has this unpleasant knight h5 attacking my bishop. And if the bishop goes back to h8, for example, he goes queen d2 and then queen g5, and this will be checkmate, because if I block, he will just take. So already this is lost for black if I go bishop f6. I here realized that I'm in some trouble, that I just overlooked this rook e1 idea of his. And actually, the best move here would be to go queen c7, admitting a mistake. So you see, I went queen b6 here, and then rook e1. The best move after this is queen c7. So obviously, the better move here would be queen c7 immediately, but I didn't realize it at the time. This position is, by the way, around equal after queen c7. But I was feeling a bit aggressive. I wanted to pressure his pawn, and I forgot that he can just ignore this threat. So here, instead of retreating queen c7, which would be like moral resignation, I went rook e8, protecting this bishop. And it turns out it's another mistake. I was calculating some other variations. I thought maybe I can go bishop h4 or bishop g5. Actually, the computer thinks that those moves are better than what I did in the game, but I didn't like it for some reason. Also, bishop d8, the computer says is okay, but I really don't like it. Disconnecting my rooks from each other, not a very human move. So I went rook e8, but this led to a series of unpleasantnesses for me. And as you might see by the eval bar, already white is close to winning. So he goes queen f3, putting pressure on the c6 pawn, but actually his idea is not to take the c6 pawn. His idea is to checkmate me, you will see now. So here I go bishop b7, another, well, it's not an inaccuracy already, it's hard to recommend anything to black. And he goes knight h5. Here his threat is obvious. He wants to go queen g3 check, and if I go king h8, then queen g7 is checkmate. So for example, if I do nothing, then this happens, check and mate. So of course I don't allow that. And here I thought for some time, I thought that I could go king h8, but I didn't like this variation. Queen g3, rook here, and queen e5 check. And I have to block with a pawn. This is the only move, and he can just take. And this is absolutely winning for him. I calculated this, and the computer agrees. Yeah. So that's why I have to counter this threat by going queen c7. Again, that would have been better several moves ago. But at least I'm in the game. although the computer already thinks I'm losing. Here, he finds a nice move, queen e3. I didn't even realize the idea of this move initially, but it's very good. So here I thought maybe I should give up a pawn here, f4, and actually the computer believes this is the best move. But I decided against this because he can just take, and I don't have anything big. Bishop g5 pinning him could have been a threat, but he can just protect like with g3, or also, wow, knight f takes e6. I didn't see that, honestly, during the game. So my queen is hanging, his queen is hanging. The best move for black is, well, if I take, for example, he will just take with a check, and he's winning. So but the best move for black here is queen takes h2. Wow, crazy. The computers are interesting creatures. But after those exchanges, white emerges 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a pawn up, and my bishop is stupid, is bad, and also 2 pawns up because knight takes e6 is the second wall. So yeah, this is a losing endgame. So this is why f4 didn't also work, actually. So yeah, I decided against this. I went king h8, and actually here I started to think like maybe I can turn the tides in this game. Maybe I can attack him, go rook g8, then c5. If he gives me a couple of tempi, I will be able to get back in the game. But he was very precise. He sacrificed the knight, which is a brilliant move according to the chess.com's engine, 2 exclamation points. For some reason it's glitching and we don't see it, but it's a brilliant move. I have to take, of course, I don't have anything else, and he gives me a check. This is the idea. If I go king g8, then queen g7 is a checkmate, of course, so I have to block. If I block with the bishop, he'll just take it with check, so I block with a pawn, and here he just takes with a rook. And now he has many threats of discovered attacks. For example, if I go like queen b6, he'll just go rook c5, blocking me and checking me over here. And I have to go here, and this is a checkmate. So this is one of the moves, queen b6, that doesn't work. Another move is like rook d8, the same thing, rook d5, checking and making me fall into the same trap. Another move that maybe like could have worked, well, there are no moves that work here. So after some thought, I thought about c5 also, but c5 fails to rook takes c5 again with a discovered check. So the only move that prolongs the agony is king g8. I'm still up a piece for 2 pawns, but the position is crumbling, and it's absolutely winning because my king is naked. So he adds another rook to the attack. I go c5, trying to desperately activate my pieces. And here I thought that he has a quick win, queen c4 check. I have to drop back, and then queen f7. And actually the computer agrees. The computer says it's mate in 13. I don't know why he didn't see that. I would have gone rook g8 to initiate at least some counterplay, but he just takes, and if I take, using this bishop, he just drops back to f1, and I have nothing. Unfortunately, that could have been a perpetual check, but he just takes. His knight is very, very useful here. So unfortunately, this wouldn't have worked, but he didn't even do that. He decided he can just drop back and create this famous battery called the Elohins or Elekines gun. A queen and 2 rooks supporting each other on the same on the same file. And this bishop is doomed, and actually my position is falling apart. Even the material is will soon be lost, so I will not be up material, and the king is still horribly naked. So here I go queen c6, trying to checkmate him in one move. Of course, he sees this threat, but actually the idea of this move is that I have to protect somehow from the threat of queen g3 check with queen g7 checkmate next. So I have to protect, so I actually have protected in this way. And here he just decides, you know what, I can go into a winning endgame. I'm not obliged to checkmate my opponent. And this is all logical. He takes, I take. Here I go rook d8, threatening mate again on the back rank. So creating some counterplay at least. He goes h4, creating loft for his king. I take, give him a check. He goes king h2, because if he goes knight f1, then I have bishop a6, and suddenly I'm better. I will win a piece. But he can go king h2, of course, not falling into the trap. This rook is very active, and my position is just losing. But here I started playing like Magnus Carlsen, you know. I thought about resigning, but then I thought, why not train a little bit of endgame techniques? So I'm losing, but maybe I can put up resistance. So I moved my bishop, he took the pawn, and I go rook d2. I'm hoping to eat some of his pawns and create maybe a situation where he has to prove that he can convert this winning advantage. So he takes my pawn. I go bishop e4. This is important because otherwise he has this fork and my bishop is threatened. So I have to drop back. He gives me a check. He goes f3. This is very instructive because if I take, he has rook f7 check and winning this bishop, so I cannot take. I go bishop d5. Here I thought he can go rook d7, and actually that would have won very fast, because if I go here, for example, he has this, and if I go here, he has knight f5 check, and if I go here, he has c4, and yeah, I have to lose this bishop. Otherwise, I don't have any defense. I can go rook d1, and if c4, then I have bishop takes f3, but still he can go a4, for example, and not lose any pawns. I would have gone for this, but he, for some reason, didn't do that. He went, what did he do here? I took, he went rook c7 here, wanting to take my pawn, but he gave me too many pawns here. He gave me this pawn, and here I could have taken on a2, but I decided, you know what, I'll first create a threat on g2. He gave me a check. I go here. It's important because if I go here, he gives me a check and goes here and protects and attacks at the same time. Like in the meme, he attack, he protect, you know. So this is important that I don't go to g7 here. I go to e7. Now this wouldn't work because here I go to d7 and he doesn't have time to go knight e3, but he has time to go rook g8. But I have time to take his pawn, and suddenly I'm just down 2 pawns, and this endgame takes some work to convert. So I was happy that I created some problems for my opponent, but he was very technically savvy here. He went h5, an important move to rid me of this square for my bishop. Now he harassed my bishop a little bit. I tried harassing him, his pawns, but he defended. He defended and started advancing his pawns. I thought, you know what, I'll try harassing him a little bit more. But his pawns are rolling, and this is a losing endgame. And here I had like a couple of minutes on my clock, and I was already losing, but I lost in a faster way because I overlooked this rook d2 idea. And if I go king c4, it's a fork and I lose my bishop. If I go king e4, it's a fork and I also lose my bishop. And if I go king d4, he can also go knight e5. And yes, I can protect my bishop and not lose it, but this will be a losing pawn endgame, and this is just lights out. So in this position, after rook d2, I realized that I'm absolutely dead lost. I went for the last trick, rook e5, hoping that he will be afraid to take my bishop because of a discovered check to his king, supposedly winning a rook, but it's not winning a rook because he can just block with knight e5. So he saw that, he took it, and I resigned in this position. So yeah, I lost to this master. It was, well, a deserved win for him. He played at like 90% accuracy according to chess.com, whereas I played at 84% accuracy, but still it sucks. I played a decent game and I just made 2 mistakes, this queen b6 and rook e8. The computer says that these are the only mistakes that I made, but he punished me for that. Well, tomorrow is the round 3, so looking forward to your reactions under this comments under this video, and thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.